Hey everybody, Steve Q here, and thanks for joining me today. I'm so sorry that I don't have this book with me, but I just really felt compelled to talk about something that is very, very relevant in our lives today, and it's a thing called change, or should I say rapid change. Now, before we get into that, by default, human beings, we get comfortable, we grow into our circumstances, don't we? And we get nice and comfortable and everything's nice and familiar. And we don't like change very much. And because change kind of spells uncertainty and unfamiliarity, and once we get comfortable with something, that's not a place that most of us want to go. And we've all got a different, I guess, tolerance for change and for uncertainty. I think it was Tony Robbins said that the quality of your life will be directly in proportion with the amount of uncertainty that you can handle. And I tend to agree with that, and especially no more than nowadays, because with the advent of online and how much internet is progressing things and moving things, I reckon we've probably had 30 years worth of change, normal change, minimum, in the last 5 years alone. I don't know whether you'd agree with that. And one of the things that's really evident to me is people of a certain age find it harder to deal with than younger people. Because if you think about it, a kid waking up today with an idea for an entrepreneurial idea for a business in, I don't know, London or Los Angeles, who's 16 or 17 years, his thought process as to how he would get that business off the ground and monetize it and do all that kind of stuff would be completely different from somebody, say, my age's natural default position, because it was different when we were doing it before. Now you've got to think differently. You've got to retrain your brain and get in sync with the things that, with the way that things are done. But the book that there's a book by Eric Hoffer called The True Believer. It's only a thin book, and it's really worth reading because there's a few little pearls in there. And it's all about the study of mass movements and the psychology of mass movements. And there's a really famous phrase that I've heard a number of people quote, and it's one that I like to quote as well. And he said something like this. I'm not sure if it's verbatim, so I'm going to paraphrase him, but in times of change, the learners shall inherit the earth, whilst the learned will find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world which no longer exists. Now, what does that mean? So let's put that into context. Some years ago, probably in around about year 2000, some 1999, year 2000, one of the large, I think it was Hanson Trust, they lost their coveted position on the FTSE 100, and they lost it to an internet upstart which hadn't made any money, hadn't really done anything, and was hugely inflated in its valuation. And one of the top dogs from this company was interviewed. I think again it was by John Humphreys on the morning program on Radio 4, and he was asked, you know, how he felt about being no longer in the FTSE 100, and obviously was pretty pissed off about it. It's kind of a rhetorical question. I don't know why John asked it, but that's a perfect illustration and really amplifies how the learners, which was the new company, the up-and-coming internet company who are embracing new technology, they're inheriting the earth, in this case a position on the FTSE 100, and the learned, which was this company that had been there forever and probably maybe was just a tad complacent, thought that they'd got a God-given right to be there, that they'd always been there, because guess what? We always have been here for as long as we can remember. They found themselves beautifully, or not so beautifully, equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists, or at least at that time, a world which was changing dramatically, and they weren't geared up for it. At that time, I was selling with some colleagues of mine internet advertising, and we were kind of ahead of the curve for that time. We were in the Wide Awake Club, and you know what, I'm not going to name names here, but a major national company who advertise on television virtually every day of the week. One of my sales guys asked this company to join us and sell them some advertising on our online directory. And whereas most people would give us a quick decision, you can imagine a huge national company, it had to go through various protocols, so on and so forth. And their IT director came back to us after a month of toing and throwing and very, very considered response and consulting and taking it to the board, and said something along the lines of, we're not going to take you up on your kind offer at the moment, guys, because we consider the internet is probably one of those fads that's kind of here today, gone next week type thing. Can you believe it? Now, this company probably does at least 60% of all its sales online right now. So it just shows how resistant people, even huge companies, can be to change, no matter how prolific that change turns out to be. And there's no more recent a change that I can think of that has been more prolific, far-reaching and faster than the internet. So, I hope you found this interesting, helpful. Please subscribe, give me a like, share the video, and I will see you next time when we'll find something else interesting to talk about. I'm Steve Q. Cheers.